Okay, you're recording.
Thank you. Thank you all three. The 7:03 will call the meeting to order, the Public Library Board of Trustees. We need to,
I'll move to go into executive session pursuant to general laws, chapter 38, section 21A2, to discuss strategy with respect to non-union personnel. Library Director Olivia Gaddi.
I'll second that.
thank you, Costa. and Maria.
Yes.
All in favor, aye. Mark Rusky, aye.
Susan Piccoli, aye.
Maria, aye. Inside as
And
well.
we will return to open session.
Thank you.
For those
So-
watching, I'm just gonna move you to the waiting room while we're in executive session, so please hang on for a second, board members. I am admitting everyone to the waiting room. Thank you. Okay. So everyone that was in the waiting room has returned and the recording has been restarted. Mr. Chair, you are back in open session.
Thank you very much. Thank you of all trades, and thank you for everybody for bearing with us while we were in executive session. Like to move. Wait till Jackie's.
You can.
Okay.
So I'll move to approve.
There was one error, I think, item Z under the Friends. Ms. Burton reported that a meeting will be held on Wednesday, February 9th. It was the 11th.
I'm sorry, we're on item C on this agenda. The vote on
Item
the
C of the
director-
minutes.
Vote on the director contract.
We already voted on the director.
No, we.
We have to do it in.
Oh, I'm so sorry. But you said the minutes. I'm sorry. My apologies.
So I will move to approve the library contract with Director Olivia Gaddi as amended during as amended per the town council's review.
I'll second that motion.
Costa, thank you, Maria. We have a vote. All in favor?
Susan.
Aye. We don't need a roll
Mark
call.
Rusky, aye. Okay.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. We officially have a new director.
Yes, and so Ms. Gaddy's start date will be March 30th. So I will be working with her and Assistant Director Robin Luna in preparation for that, but congratulations, board members. It's been a long haul, and I'm really excited for you and for the team here at the Flint Public Library and for the organization. So congratulations.
And for you to wear one less hat.
I do this very selflessly. I am more excited for the staff and for the Flint to have a new person who's here full-time, new chapter. And I think that's gonna be great. And we do look forward to welcoming her on March 30th. And with the board's support, I'd like to, I'll throw some sort of welcome gathering that first week for members of this body, the friends, the public who would like to come in and say hello and greet her, if that's amenable to the board.
That would be great.
Okay.
And please let us know, like, what we can do if we're gonna do it here, if we can bring some refreshments, we can all pitch in on something. Love to do that. What would the date of that be?
I apologize, I don't have one in mind, but I want
Monday
to.
the 30th, so it'll be somewhere in that.
Something that week we'll do it, try to do it in the first couple of days. I just need to check the programming schedule,
Of course, yeah,
and make sure that we're not, in crosshairs with anything we've already booked.
great, thank you.
But we'll very publicly announce that, when it is booked, and we'll get it out to all of you as
Great.
well.
Thank you. Wonderful, all right. Thank you and congratulations to Olivia. We're really excited to have you and to our esteemed staff, we're really excited for you as well, so. Thank you. Thank you all for bearing with us. We're excited to be moving into this next chapter. Moving on to our next agenda item, which
The minutes.
is approval of the minutes. Thank you.
I had just one comment. The first item that it was February 11th, not 9th, that the Friends met Wednesday. The 9th was not. So all set.
Where is it your, it's all February 9th, was the
It was
11th?
the 11th. The 9th was a Monday. We met on Wednesday.
Thank you.
I didn't have any other area.
I'll move to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not have a agenda in front of me because it did not.
Stuff that you pass them from there on better.
Richard's now going front and back and didn't go to the agenda. Thank you. Got it. I did everything. No. So, thank you. So, trustees report.
And nothing from the Friends, correct?
Correct.
I didn't know if you got something.
I have not connected with the friends this week or.
For this report, okay.
Correct. So, I'm sorry, I haven't gotten any information from them, but we will. One thing I can tell you is that, they have started a campaign, a mailing campaign, and, I have a vague, answer from Annie, just saying that they're having success connecting with past donors that were not able to be, contacted through the census, and they're having some success through that. So I think she's feeling better. I think there's a lot of concern and fear over the change, the fact that we weren't sending it out like we normally do through the census. So I think they're excited about that. So
They can mail it out too.
they did, and they have been,
Like
and
everybody else does.
they are,
The police does it, everybody else does their own.
and it's working.
Council on Aging.
So if anyone else has anything else to add to the trustees report, we'll move on to the acting director's report.
Perhaps if I could just make a comment on that, since this is the third month she hasn't been here, that if she's not going to be able to come again, that we get something, an update. You know, to the director.
Normally, she has been doing that.
Yeah, I don't know, I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I think she'll be back.
Okay, but in case.
Good idea, thank you. Ms. Jackie, if you'd like to give us your report, do we want to move Patty into
I actually was Patty's a part of my
a,
report.
good,
So before I jump into the fiscal 26 updates, to start with fiscal 27, I did want to bring Patty in. So Patty is here from the Merrimack Valley Library Consortium, and I do want to let her introduce herself. We have not had a visit from MVLC in some time. I did distribute to the board members the MVLC materials on the increase that we're seeing in our program and MVLC line of approximately $7,000. And I do want to give Patty the floor for a few minutes to talk about some updates from MVLC and the reason for the increase, and to give the board an opportunity to ask questions. And with that, Patty, would you like to jump in?
thank you for being here, Patty.
Sure, yeah, thanks for having me. Can you all hear me okay?
Cannot hear you, Patty. Hang on, let me turn up our volume.
Time out.
Yeah.
It's on, it's just the volume's low.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Patty.
Can you hear me now?
Perfectly,
Hello.
thank you.
Okay, excellent, thanks. Yeah, the sound is hard to get right on an OWL system. So thanks for having me. Jackie basically just asked me if I would come and answer some of your questions about sort of the way the assessment is formulated in general, and talk to you a little bit about some of the changes that have been happening over the last year. So we have been having sort of a year-long conversation, actually probably more than that now, about some changes to the way that the assessments are formulated, and actually not so much about the formula itself, but some budget rules that we had in place for a very long time that were supposed to be very temporary, and they continued in perpetuity, and they were really doing quite a bit of harm to the financial stability of the organization, and they were causing a lot of equity among the members in the consortium. So we've been working on that for a whole year, and we voted some changes this past September. And when I say we, I'm actually referring to you, which is the 36 member libraries, because we are a member-run organization. We're a nonprofit, and we are governed by all of you. So all of the policies and procedures are decided by the library directors, not by MVLC staff. So I can say more about that in a little bit. But I thought it might just be helpful. I know some of you are have been there longer than others in these roles, and I just wanted to kind of start really briefly by recapping how MVLC determines the member assessments. So our budget is funded by grants from the Board of Library Commissioners, state. We have a state budget line. And then we are funded by interest income. And then primarily we're funded by the member shared costs, which are your assessments that we bill you for every year. So after the grants and interest are applied to our operating budget that we've developed for the upcoming year, the balance is divided among the 36 libraries according to a formula that's based on usage and other factors. So I can share more about that if you like. It's a very convoluted formula. We actually just updated it again in FY24. And that formula is really attempting to approximate each library's sort of fair share as best we can, because we're a very diverse group of 36 libraries. So we have a zero-based budget, which means that once we apply the formula to the member shared costs, your fee is what it is. And if anybody pays less than their fee, then we have to make up those costs from some other income source. And those are our only income sources. So that's the way that we sort of determine our budget. So to go back 10 years, we in the fall of 2014, the Merrimack Valley Library Consortium, in an attempt to sort of help libraries that were still riding out the previous recession, they applied a budget rule in which they decided that they were going to cap increases for libraries at 5%. So if your formula, if we applied the formula to, to all of the libraries, and the formula just, the results of the formula had you increasing by 6%, we would cap that amount only at 5%. So nobody would go up more than 5% year over year. So the problem with that is that that overage was being covered by our capital reserves. And to put it in municipal terms, what we've basically been doing at MVLC is for a decade, we've been funding our operating budget or subsidizing our operating budget with the equivalent of free cash. So we really, have been for a very long time giving the member libraries what is the equivalent of like a promo code or discount on your membership. So your formula is what you actually owe the organization. And if we charge you less than that, we would take the money out of capital reserve. So that's been going on for quite some time. And every year we've been subsidizing our budget to the tune of $50,000, $60,000 from capital reserve. It's been really hard for us to build up our reserves. And the other really large problem about this process is that the difference between the formula amount and the capped amount varies greatly by library. So we have some libraries that over the course of 10 years have paid far less than they actually owed. And we have many other libraries that have paid more than they owed, because we also have a practice of if the formula decreases your assessment, we level charge you. And that was agreed upon 20 years ago or something, that folks didn't want to go down year over year. They would rather reinvest in the organization. So we've got some members who have been paying far more than what they actually owe according to their formula, and some that have been paying less. Middleton is one of the libraries that has been paying less. Over the last 10 years, Middleton has paid $13,000. and some change, I don't have the number in front of me, over those 10 years, less than what it actually owed according to your formula, according to your share. So it's basically a discount that we have been giving some of our libraries for a really long time. So this has just been causing a number of problems because, as you can imagine, every year if we cap at 5%, and then the next year your formula amount is even further away from the 5%. So the gap just gets wider and wider every year.
Your previous decisions have created this problem. And now your decisions now are creating an entirely new problem.
Mhm.
You know, in the Prop 2.5 world, when a line item increases 22%, it creates a monumental problem.
Agreed.
So
I agree
why
with
are
you
you doing
100%.
it? So
Well,
why are
I'm
you
not
doing
doing anything. This is something that was discussed for over a year among our library directors.
Library directors that do not necessarily know municipal finance?
Okay, so the library directors set the policies for the Merrimack Valley Library Consortium. That's how our governance works.
It sounds like the library directors made bad decisions in 14 and others when they, did it.
Okay.
So why would anybody have faith that the library directors would make a good budget decision going forward when they made a bad one in the past?
Okay, so we have to fund our budget. And our budget is really very conservative. Our FY27 budget is actually less than our FY26 budget, even though members are paying more because we're removing the caps. So our budget we've made major strides in reducing our budget and trimming our expenses over the last several years. I can tell you a little bit about that if you'd like, but I also can just send you some information about that if you like. But over the last 5 years, we've reduced our budget and our expenses significantly. I've taken our telecommunications budget from $100,000 to $50,000. We're paying less for our integrated library system than we were 5 years ago because of renegotiating. We've really done quite a bit to lower our budget.
Can I ask them, because you're getting kind of in the weeds here.
Yeah.
Me personally, I mean, I just see a substantial increase and it freaked me out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You guys had us below, what did you say, 13% less than we were supposed to pay? What was it?
No,
13,000.
over the last 10 years, in total, Middleton has paid $13,000 less than what it actually owed, according to our membership formula.
I'm sorry, Patty, so I can hear you clearly. 13,000 less over 10 years?
Correct.
Not 13,000 a year.
Nope, $13,000 over 10 years.
Why did that happen?
Because of the assessment caps. So it's a very complicated issue. Again, I sent some materials to Jackie. I think they didn't make them to you over the course of the last year. So we've been discussing this at length for a whole year at MVLC. It's just a very bad timing for all of you because you haven't had a library director to participate in those conversations, and I apologize for that. But we've had...
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
You made the statement that we got those documents. We never received those documents.
She said she didn't think we got them.
No, she didn't think we got them, and that's.
We didn't, right?
No, and that's on me. And
Yeah.
when these
Well,
actually
so-
went out, it was in August when I was underwater, so I apologize
Okay.
because that's on me, not on Patty,
Great,
that
then
they
that's
didn't
fine.
get to you. But I do wanna say this, I got the materials that Patty had sent out, that's what is in front of you today in the packet. Yes, and to Costa's point, it's library directors that are making these decisions, not trustees, and it's not Patty and her team.
We didn't have a director for this.
Correct,
decision
I
making.
was not weighing in.
No.
What I can also say is that if I had voted, it was a pretty large margin by which these were approved, so my vote wouldn't have tilted the scale in that sense. What I also offer is, Patty, if you could please send the budget cuts that you've worked on with your team
Sure.
So MVLC has done a good job of reducing, to reduce telecommunications by $50,000, which is 50%, is a big difference. And within our scope, just to make sure that we're thinking of it, we have over an $800,000 operating budget for fiscal 27. So I certainly appreciate the fiscal conservancy of this body. But I will also add that I've made cuts in other areas so that this 7,000 has less impact on the taxpayers of Middleton, because we do use these services really aggressively. This is part of how we stay certified. It's part of how our patrons get items from interlibrary loan. It's part of how we get all of our ebooks that people use. Their
What's our
e-audio.
assessment, Jackie? 41,000?
Yeah, it's 41,000.
What was it last year?
It was.
So actually, can I just clarify, Jackie? I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure we're using apples to apples oranges because, numbers, because you also have at play the $2,500 small libraries discount that is the grant that we apply for on your behalf with the state. And I think we might be comparing with the $7,000 gap. I think you might be comparing your pre-grant amount to your post-grant amount for this year. Because last year, I looked up all of your numbers. Last year, your capped amount, so the amount that you would have been charged was $30,440, but you only paid $27,941 because that was the amount after we applied the grant that we apply for you on your behalf. So you paid $27,941, and your operating assessment this year is $35,632. But then when you subtract the $2,500, it's $33,133. So it's really only about a $5,000 difference for your operating. So the $41,000 includes your operating assessment and your e-content assessment. So it's two assessments in one. And your e-content assessment hasn't changed very significantly. It's like $100 or something. So it is about a $5,000 difference in your operating once we've applied the Small Libraries and Networks grant to your invoice.
It's Patty, because I wasn't aware of the small libraries grant piece.
Yep.
So I'll have to look at our budget because I was going off. I don't know if I incorporated that small libraries grant discount in what I proposed for the operating budget because I did not know it existed. So that'll be.
Yeah, the budget document has it really laid out for each library what your formula amount is and any discounts that apply, because it's only just we have about 10 or 11 libraries that receive that grant. It's awarded to us and we apply it on your behalf. So, and then you have your e-content assessment. So the total amount that you will be billed by MVLC this year is let me just see.
33,113.
No, it's for the two assessments. So it's 33133 and 8109 for e-content, which is 41,242.
Which is on the bottom of the sheet.
On this one.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have your budget obviously in front of me. I have our numbers, but that's what's in the budget document, which again I can send you again, but yeah. And that was approved by membership in November.
Yeah, and Jackie, thank you for falling on your sword and offering to say that, it was your fault, but realistically, we've been in a quandary since we haven't had a director in quite a long time. So a lot of this is, just what happened because of the situation we're in. It appears as though there's a lot of value here. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Getting down into the weeds, as Maria said, reciprocal borrowing. So this week, I picked up a book that we didn't have here that my wife was interested in. It was some strange author that whatever, was British or something. Anyway, it came in 2 or 3 days. It was here and we were able to pick it up, and she's reading it now.
Right.
That's the lowest line here. The bottom line on here is the total cost of items Middleton patrons borrowed from other MVLC libraries in 2025.
Right.
Fiscal year 25. Can you tell me how does that one book that my wife borrowed today, how does that affect this $390,000? What's it cost for us to borrow one book from another library somewhere, and how does that?
So the way that we came up with this calculation is basically the value of the book. And it's actually the value that, so in a MARC record, the record that we put in the catalog, we put a price, when a library buys a book, they put a price in there and they put in what they paid for it. So it's heavily discounted. We obviously get heavy discounts on our materials. So say you borrowed that book from North Andover. So North Andover buys a book for $25. They put that price into the system as the price for that book. And that's in there for a lot of reasons. If somebody loses the book and they have to pay for it, it's in there for all of those reasons. Coming up with this number, we actually ran a report in our system for each of our libraries for what your patrons borrowed that Middleton did not buy. So things that you borrowed from other libraries, and the dollar value of those items is in those records. So that's how we came up with that number for each of our libraries to put into this value of service sheet. So Middleton borrowed $400,000 worth of library materials in FY24 is the numbers that we used for these figures. Sorry, FY25, sorry.
Excuse me, but if I borrowed the book and then North Andover borrowed the book and so borrowed the book, that's three different $25. We're all getting hit with the 20, each getting hit.
Well, we're not getting hit with that.
No, we're not charging you $25. You're getting $25 of value that Middleton didn't outlay is what this is saying.
But that's what I'm saying is that if like 7 different libraries borrowed the book.
Yep.
It's not $25.
Well, he said those 7 libraries.
A better example is if the book that your wife borrowed.
Yeah.
Next month, another Middleton resident borrows it.
Yeah.
A few weeks later, another one does. And then after that, a fourth one.
Yeah.
It's that same book. It should be $25, not $100.
Well, if we had borrowed, but by the same token.
That's how we get the
If we had to borrow.
But that's, not
Yeah, that's
a
not.
big, because it doesn't drive what the assessment is.
Right. No, I understand that. I just want to understand how that value.
The calculation.
Yeah, but otherwise, we would have had to buy that book.
But what it only cost us 25.
Sure, right, but we would have had to outlay that cash.
Okay.
And who knows how many books that is, we could probably figure them out, but I think,
There was an issue with our reporting too.
So I'm a little confused. You said that our total assessment for everything this year is $41,242.
Yeah.
Which is what is in our budget. The FY26 number in that line is $33,825. And it's.
Yeah, I don't have, I mean, I don't know anything about your local budget. I can tell you that what we billed you last year, which was.
You billed us last year.
Yes, we billed you last year,
26.
For our current year. Your operating assessment was 27,941. And your e-content assessment was 7,992. Now, that said, the 27,941 is what 941 is what we billed you, but that's after we applied the discount, the small libraries and networks discount. That wasn't your actual.
$34,000.
35.
Rounding up, 35, sure.
Yeah.
Almost
But
30.
actually, I will also point out that the 30,440, which was what you actually owed before that small libraries and network, that was the capped amount. Your formula amount was actually 33 and some odd. So you can see that like because we capped your increase at 5%, as we did for many other libraries. And then we subsidize it from our capital reserves, which is not good for you ultimately because it allows us to do fewer things that improve services to you.
And so this is an internal question. if they billed us for almost $36,000 and we have 33,800 in our FY 26 budget line item, have we paid?
We pay them at the
They
beginning.
pay right at
of
the
the
beginning.
year, so.
And what did we pay them?
I don't have that off the
Okay.
top of my head, Costa.
All right.
Give me
No,
a
that's,
few minutes.
I'm concerned that, for the FY 26, we didn't budget the right amount.
Hang on one second, and I come up what we paid. So-
And I think, I'm sorry.
No,
If
sorry.
you need a minute, I can talk while you're
How
looking.
are you doing?
Okay. One of the things about this is, to me, this feels like the Essex County Co-op, right? Where we're all, it's a cooperative that we're all a part of.
Yeah, I mean, libraries invented regionalization, right? I mean, it's resource sharing. The whole point of being in a library network for you is that you can exponentially increase the value of your services with fewer dollars in your budget. And that's what libraries networks do. It's not a new concept. We've been around for quite some time. And as have many library networks in the state since the late 80s. And what initially prompted that organization, it used to be that we just had regular, very old school, interlibrary loan. And for some of you who may remember that, it was a very long process. If you didn't have a book in your local library, you could have your librarian request it, and it would be several weeks. It would come in the mail. And then we automated the networks in the 1980s, and we have daily delivery through the state. And now it's the Merrimack Valley Library System is really like one big library, and the 36 municipalities are branches of that library. That's really how we function. But of course, you're getting far more than you would ever be able to do on your own. I mean, just running an integrated library system as a standalone library would be, outrageously expensive. Even if you were using open source software, you'd have to have staff to manage that.
The system for a long time.
So can I jump back a minute to answer Costa's question? Because I think this is clarifying for me. And Patty, this might be something that I want to check in with you about for my errors reporting.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, Costa, we did pay MVLC out of that line item at the beginning of this year. But out of our MVLC line, we paid the 27,941
That she mentioned, yeah.
that she mentioned. And Patty, that 27,941 is the discounted amount, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
But then this might be where there's an error on my part, because the other piece that we paid to MVLC, the e-content, I
Came
put
out
in
of materials, right? She paid out of
materials.
mm-hmm.
So part of this may be that this is all even further my fault, that I plugged too much of MVLC in the MVLC line and not that e-content in books and publications that counts towards us buying, like, they buy e-content for us with that. So I need to look at my submission, because I'm wondering if I double counted that e-content in both line items. So yes, there's an increase because of the lack of cap, but I've made it look worse than it is because I double counted it in 2 lines.
Perhaps, we don't know yet.
I don't know, but I think that might be part of our issue, because I did pay the 7/24/2025 7,992 e-content out of books and materials at the beginning of this year, based on guidance I was getting from MVLC when I was doing last year's errors report.
Okay.
Double check your number.
Yeah, I have to go back and look what I did for ClearGov. I'm not gonna be able to pull it up right now, but that might be part of our issue.
Is this budget public?
Is what budget public?
MVLC's budget.
Yes.
We're in public meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it is being part of, MVLC is very much to our benefit because of all the services
The
that
borrowings.
provide.
And the e-borrow.
And where I get library directors, are well versed in library sciences and, what people want, and not necessarily in municipal finances. And in my mind, you know, the decisions that were made back in 14, 15, 16 were not very wise ones.
Agreed.
And to
And I've been,
go
I've been
from-
spending the last 3 years trying to fix them.
and going in one shot from that to this.
It's a shock.
Is, yeah, I mean, how many of the 36 libraries
Yeah, so-
had more than a 2.5% increase in
More
their-
than half. More than
And-
half of them. And they voted, people wanted to fix it because they could see how it's impacting our budget and impacting our services.
Do you foresee the increases going forward as being more within that 2.5% range that municipal finances are limited to?
So,
is this a one-time
again,
job, or-
it's really hard to explain the assessment cap issue, but what I want to what I'd like to try to get across, and again, we really talked about this in minutia, like in the consortium for a very long time. And this has been like a really huge problem, but over the last several years, our budget is not what is increasing by more than 5%. The 5% cap wasn't an increase that was being applied to MVLC's budget growth. It was your fee last year to your fee this year. So the problem is that year over year, the gap between the capped amount and what you actually owe according to the formula gets wider and wider and wider every year that it's capped. So over 10 years now, we've got people who are in the 20% between their formula amount and you know what they end up paying, and it's just kicking the can down the curb. So until you fix it, it's always going to be the.
My question is this, our large increase.
Yeah.
Percentage wise, is that the one-time fix? And then it'll be, you know.
Yes. So
Small increases?
yeah.
Or-
So next year, so because of the formula, and I don't know how much you know about the way that the formula works and the way that we bill you, but your formula is based on usage. It's based on a number of criteria that attempt to approximate how much your individual library is using MVLC services versus another library. Okay, so we look at a lot of different statistics and we calculate those into the formula. I can send you more information about that if you'd like to get into the weeds with it, but basically that is going to fluctuate year over year, but probably not significantly. So, you know, if Middleton's circulation represents 7% of the circulation in the total consortium, next year it might be 7.5 or 6.5. It doesn't vary wildly, but your formula could change, you know, your formula amount could change slightly even if our budget was the exact same number next year, but it's probably not going to be wildly. What mostly will change your assessment is if our operating budget went up significantly, because then that budget increase, if my operating budget went up 5% in FY28, that 5% would need to be applied to the formula and you all pay your fair share of that. So what I am saying to you is over the last 5 years, we have not had a year where the operating budget has gone up 5%. It's gone up less than 5%, but your increases are still going up so much because they've been capped for so long that this is a major correction.
So the truth is, just as I may add, that collection development is very important because when a director looks at reports of what's been going out and coming in from MLVC, a director should say, well, people are really going into those British books, we should buy those
Yeah.
if the collection's going that way. So collection development by the director, I assume it's the director who does it, assistant director, I'm not sure.
No, there's our collection development is we have someone who does youth, someone who does
Okay,
teen, and
so
someone who
that
does
shows
adult.
you right here, this proves how important collection development is, and we've talked about that in the past, how important it is. And this is
This is a,
It has
this
these
is
dollars and
the
cents.
reason,
Right.
a good reason why.
It's right, that it
I'm-
needs to be looked at more carefully.
And I think
But
it's also helpful that
It
Patty,
has an opportunity though.
Going
to
forward.
go-
Yeah.
no, to go forward, but to still use borrowing from other places because
If only one person's ever taken out that British book, we don't want to have to buy that
Right.
British book for
Yeah.
that
But if
reason.
you see a lot of people buying that British book, then that was my
And if I-
point in saying
if I
that.
may.
Your
that's
collection
helpful.
development policy probably does dictate those things, but I also just want to clarify that just so that there's no confusion. This sheet that you have in front of you is not an itemized bill. This is a snapshot of your usage and an attempt to place value on the service that you're getting in exchange for your $41,000. So if your reciprocal borrowing number was $400,000 or $600,000, that's not going to change the $41,000. This is just me showing you this is the value that you got for your $40,000. That figure is not being billed to you and is not going to fluctuate your fee up and down. There are other factors that do that.
Patty, before we let you go, you had talked about the $2,500 small communities discount. Can you?
Yep.
Say the number for fiscal 27, including the discount being counted, because that might be partially what I have wrong. So
Yeah.
right now, in our budget for the operating assessment, I have the 35,242. Should that really reflect the 33,133?
Okay, so your operating assessment for FY 27 is 3563261.
Yep.
And then you're getting a $2,500 discount off of that. So your operating assessment is 33133.
Mm-hmm.
And then you owe 8109 for e-content.
Because I had the 35 number in, I had e-content in books and materials, but I had the 35 and change in instead of the 33 and change. So that does help us go in the right
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, this is all in the appendix of the budget document. So, this is what was approved in November. So, I mean, I can resend it to you if you like.
Make sure, because that I had in wrong, so that is we'll see that decrease in the next time I present your budget. Because I didn't include the 2,500 discount.
No, in the budget, you have the same number, 41,242, 41.
Because I just plugged it in there. But that line also has programming in it. We have 6,000 of programming because it's MVLC and programming. But in the broken down NBLC line, I had the 35 and change number when I should have had the 33 and
Okay.
change number.
All right, so. We've had an increase, but not as much as we thought because.
No.
Yeah, it's about $5,000. Yeah, which again, I'm not minimizing that. A lot of communities are having to have a little bit of a bump this year in order for us to rectify this problem. We've been talking about it for a really long time. We really could not figure out a way to do it incrementally over time because if we actually went through, I cannot tell you how many models we went through last spring. My fiscal committee and I went through scenarios where we said, okay, well, let's raise the cap to 7%, next year, and then 9% the next year, and 10% then. And in doing that, it's still creating a gap year over year, because if you're in the 20% from where your formula's got to be, and I bring you up to 7, the next year you're still going to have to make it up. So at some point, there's going to be a year where we have to make it up. And the members all felt that they wanted to do this once, and then only have increases when our actual operating budget increased in the future, because we have more control over that.
I think it's clarified some things, so. thank you very much.
We appreciate the clarification and the information and bringing us up to speed and.
Yeah, for sure. It's just been really hard because I think a lot of this has just the timing of this big conversation and this big decisions happened at a time when you've been in such transition. So it's just been really hard, to sort of account for everything. There's been a lot going on.
Well, we look forward to you working with our new director that
Yeah.
we just appointed and just worked with her contract. So anyway, we really appreciate all this information and look forward to that.
Sure.
that-
If
that
there's
goes.
anything additional I can send your way, Jackie can let me know. I'm happy to send more documentation from this whole process last year because it was a really lengthy process. We talked about this for about a year and a half before the membership decided that they wanted to go ahead and rectify it for 27.
Yeah,
Thank you. I think that's enough.
yeah, so I guess it's what we can do.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bonnie.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And she's gone.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I just sent a note to Finance Director Wood. I'm not, she's live editing ClearGov right now, so I'm gonna make that $2,500 change because I apologize. I didn't see
And we have
that.
to vote on that next month?
If, so you don't have to vote on it again. It's just a tweak we can make internally just to reflect the accurate assessment
I was gonna
If-
vote no.
to make the reduction.
No, just, I'm a no on all, I'm very unhappy with this whole assessment and the way it was done, that's all, making that point. Very clear, I think Costa made it crystal clear. Very disappointing. Their error, that we are paying for it, I just don't like that. It seemed like a lot of smoke and mirrors, I'm sorry, that just wasn't clear. Regardless of you not getting that, that doesn't even bother me, that you didn't get us that material. Thank you for, as Mark said, falling on your sword, but I think this was not a very good way that they came up. This took them a year and a half.
So I think,
it's been ongoing for 10 years, it sounds like.
what I'm.
I mean, a year and a half for them to put this new,
What I'm hearing is that we have negative feedback for both the assessment cap, and I think I heard Costa also speak to that. We wanna provide feedback that the governance doesn't make sense to have it be the unelected director who's weighing in on these financial
100%.
matters, so
maybe we have to have that on our agenda.
I'm happy to put that in writing.
I think that would be
Financial
important.
consultant in there or somebody
Oh,
helping.
from the finance committee, you know, someone from our finance committee or select board.
I'd like to just see their budget in general, just to,
Yeah, I think it's a little heavy.
who knows, right? We haven't seen it, so we don't know that.
Well, it's online.
Um,
It's a state agency, it's not private.
right.
I
Okay,
can get a copy.
It's
too.
all state tax, it's all our tax dollars that pay for it and their salaries.
all right, great. Well, thank you for setting that up.
Yeah.
Jackie. Do you have other, director report
Yeah, so
line items?
fiscal 26 update, we remain status quo, in a lot of accounts. So this is like very hot off the presses. This is as of the beginning of March that this budget is being reflected, so including the month of February. Our overall salary and wages budget is at approximately 46%. That again remains reflective of there being no spend in the director line item. That will shift next month, but for the overtime budget, we're at 45%, which is a healthy place to be for overtime this far into the fiscal year. And then the part-time budget at about 51%, which is great. Electricity and water, hang on, sorry. Here we go. So for total salaries spent to date, we're at 38%.
Can I just ask about electricity? You were just saying
Oh, yes, I
electricity,
was just about to start on
Okay.
electricity.
because the lights are still on.
I know.
Okay,
So we're gonna likely have to replace the building management system that oversees the lights, that's why.
okay.
And I can talk more about that in the capital budget. But I can tell you out of we are at 60% on electricity and water, which at this point in the fiscal year is status quo with most of our other departments on their electricity and water budgets. I will tell you that, most of that is electricity and not water. But I would say that our peak electrical use this year was back in August and October. So right now we're averaging in the 1,300 to 1,700 a month range on our electricity bills. But we peak out in, for example, October, we were at 3,800 and mid-August, we were at 2,100. So we are down on our usage from like the summer, heavier months. But we will keep an eye on that, and I am working with Peter Coleman for, the capital plan on the lighting system. Ideally, Susan, to your point, once we get the building management system up and running at the new municipal campus. If we find that we are liking that vendor, there would be maybe some economy of scale of moving the library to the same vendor. So there's just an economy of scale there, but we want to make sure we like them at the new buildings before we commit to them with another.
Contract, yeah.
Yeah. Heating fuel remains at 30%. We're definitely gonna get another big bill. But we're doing okay so far. So that is only through our early January gas bill. I'm sure we'll see, more January and February gas bills that'll knock that budget number up because of how cold it's been. Equipment repair, we're still at the 150% mark on. And that's where any other equipment repair will continue to charge to that account, so we have a better sense of equipment repair. But we may move some money from building maintenance to equipment repair when we do the fiscal 28 budget. Training and education has remained at 0% for this year. 85% on MVLC and programming, and that's because we paid MVLC at the beginning of the year. We have been doing some programming money out of that budget line as well. Postage, we have not paid significant postage. We are moving everybody to the postage machine at town hall. So historically, the library would buy stamps and get a reimbursement. We're now having them go through the postage machine at town hall, so that there's some discount there. Contractual services is at 104.5%. That includes everything from our alarm system to our elevator to our server, HVAC repair, our elevator contract, our gutter cleaning that we just did, our sprinkler system inspections. Again, this is status quo for right now, but we're looking at a new company for the elevator inspections for next year that we think will have some economy of scale and some savings.
Is the battery in that you had to replace, or the secondary battery in that, or is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
and hopefully that's a this year only concern as well.
Yeah.
Office supplies, we are a little bit over budget on office supplies because we have been buying a lot of books, and all of our bindery supplies for cataloging the books comes out of office supply. You can't charge those to books and materials, you have to charge them out of something else. So that's all of the covers and the stamps and everything that make a book ready to go out into circulation. So we are in a office supply freeze, as the staff know. So anything book bindery is getting approved so that more books are hitting the floor, because we want to make sure that the books are circulating. But anything else, office supplies, other than like necessary paper, I'm heavily scrutinizing. Where we do have some money in the budget, we're only at 10% on building maintenance, and this is the cost of our trash bags, our toilet paper, our paper towels, cleaning supplies. We've been shopping around to different vendors, really like finding the deals, and the goal is to continue to keep that line really economical by finding different vendors and making sure we're getting the best prices. But that's also going to be where at the total of our expense budget, where I've made up for some of our other over expenses. And I want to thank Robin, who has been doing a good job of when we need things, finding between all of the different state contracts, the best deal for the items that we're buying on that.
Do
Robin's
the
been doing
state contracts give us, I mean, are they the cheapest,
Yeah.
or do we have to?
So what you would get on Amazon, we get on Amazon for less when we apply the state contracts. What you would buy at WB Mason if you walked into the Staples or WB Mason, when we apply our state contracts through our town account, we get a heavy discount on that. And we look at that regularly, Susan. I just met with our WB Mason rep 2 Fridays ago to ensure that we're getting all of the appropriate discounts. So they'll review all the things that we're buying, and our rep will go through, and if there's some where we can get a savings, they apply it. To give you an example, I sent an order to the WB Mason rep of specific items that I wanted for the new municipal buildings. And I think the total was like $2,300, and he applied the state contract to that same cart, and it was $1,600. So there is significant
Okay,
savings.
no, I'm
in
just
it.
saying sometimes
Yeah.
the
Oh,
contracts that they make you follow aren't always.
so yeah, this is where the operational services division at the state does group purchasing on our behalf. And so we're not locked into that contract, and we can shop through the
Yeah.
different ones, but it does enable us to get some good
Okay,
savings.
no, I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, we're working really hard to nickel and dime as much as possible. Books and publications is only at 38.9%. We are gonna start seeing on this next warrant, we've added some new museums. We're looking at some new other subscriptions for newspapers and magazines. We see a lot of transaction with that. And our teen services librarian started in January, and she is starting to make a strong impact on our youth, and our young adult budget. So that was a little bit slow, so that's gonna start picking up really rapidly. And I've been working with staff, we are updating our movie collection, as well, because we do have to hit that spend number for the ARIS report. So I'm hopeful to continue to keep that moving aggressively. There have been some delays that we've seen with the loss of, one of the Baker and Taylor. So Ingram's a little bit slower, and I only pay invoices once we get the item, so that will continue as we get into the spring. Mileage is at 8.4%. That's mostly for when the staff have done the homebound deliveries or gone to a specific store to get materials for programs that we couldn't buy, electronically or locally. Dues and memberships remains at 0%. Our, rest of our budget is encumbrances from last year, so that's where we are. So total library supply budget's at 38.6% for this year. That's fiscal 26, unless there are any other questions about the current fiscal year. Okay. I think we talked to fiscal 27 quite a lot, but just to talk about fiscal 27 capital. I presented the capital budget to the joint meeting of the select board and FinCom on Saturday. And there were some recommendations and requests that came out of that meeting. So I'm just pulling those up really quickly. So there was a request by the select board and the finance committee, to add, so we had put in fiscal 28, the movement of the septic controls for the shared septic system from fire to this building. And there was a request, because it's electrical focused, to incorporate that into the bigger generator project. I thought made a lot of good sense. So that would increase that total project to 165,000. And then I had submitted the light fixture repairs at $5,000, the repointing of masonry at $5,000, and the skirt and threshold at $8,000 as one $18,000 item, just for keep grouping some miscellaneous items together. And then, as you'll recall, we had the AC condenser at $7,200. With the AC condenser, there was a concern at the meeting from the joint boards, and I think it was a good concern of that the AC condenser, it would be great to buy that before July, so that it's in place before the hot summer months. So there was a request of the trustees to use some of the one-time funds that the trustees had turned over for that $7,200. Because if you take that vote now, I could do that before we hit the hot summer months, versus in a capital request that we couldn't buy and start the purchasing until July 1. So I do bring that in front of you for your consideration tonight. 7,200 for the AC condenser, and that includes the condenser, the switch, and decommissioning the old items.
There's also the 5,000 for the lighting.
Yes, I was doing that I'm sorry, Costa, I'm going one by one. And there was also the request of if we could do the same with the light fixture repairs at $5,000. So we could do that before this change of fiscal year. So that would be a total of $12,200 from the trustees' one-time funds that we'd be requesting, so that we could do those repairs this fiscal year instead of next. Because those don't require a town meeting appropriation, those only require appropriation by this body.
And what about the Friends that was requested from the total assets?
I'm meeting with the
269?
Friends have another meeting on Wednesday. And they had asked for more detail on the generator project, and I presented that at the budget meeting on Saturday, and I know the president of the Friends was present for that presentation. So I will be at the Friends meeting on Wednesday, and I hope to have an answer, but I don't.
For the 160.
For part of the 160, yes.
Which is 165. Because it ain't.
If we move the
as
septic controls.
Right. And how much are you asking the Friends to pay for that?
I haven't asked for a specific amount because we've not really done a capital request with them in this manner. I'm asking for whatever they would like to approve. You know, if it's a third, if it's a quarter of it, I'm looking for any support I can from the trustees, the friends, and the wider free cash capital budget from
Well,
town meeting.
They do have 269,000 total assets, so they have substantial funds. They are sitting there just growing in a fidelity account, which is what people donate the money
And I
for.
think ideally, I'd love to see 25% of the project paid for, from the Friends. That would be very generous of them. I do appreciate wanting to have some of that in reserve for when we do the bigger roof project in a year or so. And for other upgrades to the building, I'm a fan of the adage to not spend it all in one place. But I think it would be great if they were willing to cover 25% of this project with Friends dollars. That would be a huge help.
So you'll find out when,
On
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
this Wednesday, they're
Yep,
meeting.
Cause they always are the Wednesday following our
Right,
Monday.
That's right.
I think the biggest is to get them to start putting money into the capital.
Yes,
It's to establish that. So I'm less concerned with the amount they put in toward the specific project.
but to get going.
The fact that they put something and
On
that
an
creates the
annual basis.
precedent for the
Right.
next one.
They just can't keep it sitting there. As we found out that none of us really knew it was there, me finding it by mistake or accidentally when I looked at a report.
So that request is
Interesting
pending.
find.
So what you're looking for is 12,200?
Tonight.
But Custy, you had
From-
also asked, we talked about,
Those are in the fixtures, the light fixtures.
but you had suggested allocating 25, I'm just looking at the minutes from before, you had suggested allocating 25 from the Emerson Fund. We talked about that, that's in the minutes.
So
From
I
last
think
month,
what came out of the discussions on Saturday with the
That changed.
wider select board and
Okay.
finance committee was that if the first 12,200 of that 25,000 could be done in this fiscal year to space out the projects, which I thought was good
okay, so
feedback.
that's changed, okay, because I'm just
So it'll
looking
be
back at our
12,
minutes,
12
12 to this year,
this year.
And then the balance in
And
next year.
from the Emerson Fund.
Okay.
Do a different.
The report.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Door,
The repointing in the door could be,
or I'm gonna come from the town's free cash.
some free cash.
The 5,000, the repointing masonry of $5,000,
And this
and what was the
curtain
other one?
threshold repair of 8,000. So it's
13,000,
Yes, thank you. So 12,200 would come from the trustees Emerson Fund,
12 which is going to be for,
the AC condenser and the light fixtures. Thank you, Costa. I definitely just fully spaced out.
be the Emerson.
And then the second 13,000 for fiscal 27 for the masonry and the skirt and threshold
Yep,
would be from free cash at town meeting.
okay, so
What
that's
about-
different.
What about the historic?
So this
Building.
section of the masonry is not something we want to tie into CAPA funds.
Okay,
So at some point there will be masonry that is, but this year I want to give Peter Coleman the opportunity to do the priority sections and I don't want to have to sort through
okay,
this section's historic, this section's not.
okay.
So we'd rather it be clean free cash.
And
Now,
then the five, I'm sorry, Sue, go ahead.
and the 12,200, is that? Are you asking the Friends for money for that 12,200?
No,
That's the Emerson.
I'm asking for money for the generator and septic control move from the
From
Friends. I'm not asking for the AC condenser and light fixture.
Okay, okay, yep, okay,
So,
If you look at the minutes from the last
Yeah.
meeting, it kind of has them listed
Yeah.
out on the second page.
you know, and now, you know, we have a definitive figure that we've been asked to contribute 12,200. And we have 4 buckets of money. There's the Emerson Fund, the BM Emerson Fund, the unrestricted funds, and the state aid account.
Mhm.
So we could use take some from each bucket, take all from one bucket, you know, it's up to us where it comes from.
And what is what is your suggestion?
You know, and the state funds are appropriate to be used for either one of these.
You could use state aid or the Emerson Fund, but state aid would be perfectly acceptable for building, work.
Right, you know, the state fund account is the biggest account, it's at $132,000.
Yep.
So I would suggest that we take the 12,200 from the state fund account,
State aid.
state aid.
That's your motion
That's my motion.
for the AC condenser
And like.
And light
fixture
and the light fixture repair. Is that what that adds up to? It's
Yeah.
the
12,200.
12,200.
During fiscal twenty.
So state aid for the AC condenser and the light fixtures?
Yeah.
What's the light? Oh, 5,000 for light fixtures.
Yeah.
But that's 12,200 plus the 5.
No,
No,
12,200.
7,200 plus 5 is.
No,
I didn't see
12,200
the 72 up top, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So 72
plus
plus
5.
the 5.
12,200
Got it.
from state aid for this year, and
Okay.
then the 13,000 from free cash to go in front of town meeting in May for next year.
They'll be all part of the town's capital
Are you
budget.
making the motion for that too, Custer? We can only do the one for the 12.
That's the only one motion that's needed. is-
Yeah.
Right.
So I've moved that we use 12,200 from the state aid account for the light fixtures and AC condenser.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll get started on those right away.
Now, do you have to get a contract or do you have, Do you-
So for the AC condenser, we just need to, the amounts for both of these projects are less than 10,000, so we just have to follow sound business practice under 30B. And so Peter Coleman and I will work through the
Okay.
procurement on the two items. We already have quotes for the AC condenser, so that will be rather quick.
Yeah.
And just kind of the weather depending on when we schedule it. The light fixture repairs will likely try to do around times when the building is less occupied or no occupancy. So ideally, we'll start booking it now and then maybe either not President's Day, excuse me, Patriots Day or Juneteenth. Try to find a contractor that's available or try to do it on a Friday when we have less going on in the building. Just we'll spread it out to reduce impact on our
okay,
users.
thank you.
And so with that said, the balance of the generator, so I am, as I said, asking my friends for that. And then the balance of that is also going to be a request to town meeting for free cash. And so I hope to have your support on the floor of town meeting on those items. They will be a part of the wider capital budget article, as we traditionally have presented the capital budget at town meeting.
And you will let us know via email about your meeting with the friends and what they,
I can let you know,
Granted.
yeah, I'll reach out with the conclusion of that.
I appreciate that.
So if they do part of it, do you have to come back to us and
No.
make the,
I'll just reduce what we're putting in, for the free cash amount in the town meeting line.
okay. Thank you.
And I guess, is it better to keep the 165 in and have the Friends as a funding source for part of it? Or just reduce the amount that's in the article?
I think that you're getting into weeds for your other hat, and I don't have an answer tonight, but I'll have an answer before I see you wearing your other hat.
No, I'm saying, if I would, either way is fine. If the Friends want some recognition that they have contributed
I
to,
see what you're saying.
then, if they are gonna give money, give them the option of being publicly recognized.
Okay,
If they want, if they don't want, that's fine.
okay.
Might not want to.
I have to think about how that would appear in the warrant. It might have to go in the purpose. I don't think it can go in the article itself, or that adds confusion. But
Well, isn't it, the motion, the funding source, is free cash except for, and, X amount from the Friends of the Flint for.
yes, but this is not, it's in like a big capital motion, so it's not.
Alright, so,
I will take it strongly under advisement, and if we can make that work, it's just not my judgment call, it's the select boards, and I wouldn't wanna speak on their behalf, but point very well taken.
for now, my point is that,
We would like to recognize the friends somehow.
and if
If they
they want it, at town meeting or at this, some other forum,
We should make that known.
we'll work to make that recognition possible.
Absolutely. How, I don't know, but if we, yes, we'll make sure that they get recognized if that's their desire.
Friends are on Wednesday at 7.
And so that's my fiscal 27 capital budget update.
Thank you.
The reading of the warrant is usually the last Thursday of March, and so I anticipate that will be the 26th of March, but sometimes that shifts, and then town meeting will be in May. So please come out and vote on this article at the May 12th annual town meeting, which is just around the corner at Howe Manning Elementary School,
May 12th,
May 12th at 7 p.m.
May 12th. I think that-
still at home meeting, right?
Still at Howe
We don't
Manning,
have room.
but I do not. Voting the next week will be moved, but not town meeting.
Oh, we will be?
Voting will be at the new building, yep,
That's the 21st.
Yeah,
19th.
they have
Wait a
that.
minute.
Voting's the 19th.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
thank you. So we've got,
I have no further building updates tonight. As far as programs and service updates, I will say, our March newsletter is out. Please pick up a copy. It's very festive. We have our signature program for this month is the Phyllis Wheatley documentary about Phyllis Wheatley's time here in Middleton, and that'll be on Thursday. And I just want to let folks that are watching at home know Olivia Gaddi, our new director, as approved by contract tonight. While she is starting on March 30th, she will be joining us for Phyllis Wheatley, which I am very excited about. And I really look forward, the registration is still open, please sign up. But we're very much looking forward to the screening of the documentary. It's about 35 minutes, and then there'll be a Q&A with the production team after. So I hope folks can stop by. And then as far as other programs and services, we are working on a book sale that will be on March 27th. That's a Friday. And we are looking for volunteers on Thursday for setup, Friday to staff the book sale, and the following Monday for cleanup. And we've got 2 to 3 hour shifts available those 3 days. So if you are around and would like to sign up, please just,
What dates?
the 26th is set up.
Friday, yeah.
Friday, the 27th is the book sale, while the entire time the library is open. And then Monday, the 30th, which is Olivia's first day, will be cleanup day. So if you are available and would like to volunteer, please let me know. And then additionally on programming and service updates, I do have an updated list of volunteer opportunities. I think I sent it out last week, but I will send it out again as people sign up. I try to update the list. But we do appreciate your support. One note is in the new list of volunteer times, we did change the times to reflect when we need you to be here versus the program start time. So if you're looking at the newsletter or your email and you're looking at the time you signed up for, please follow the time you signed up for and not the start time of the program, just so that gives you a few minutes to get in, get settled, get the counter, and get, say hello to the performer if there is one. And that would be very helpful, especially because we are coming up on one of our busiest weeks of the year, which is April school vacation. And that will be a very, very busy week here at the Flint.
what time on Thursday, the 26th, are you looking for setup volunteers?
2 or to 3. We're hoping to be done by 3 with setup. So, but it's during the day. That's the
Coming back from Costa Rica.
very cool.
Terrible.
Costa Rica this year.
Sorry to hear about that.
As far as staffing updates go, we'll have a new director on March 30th.
Mhm.
And as far as the library director search update, if it's fine with the board, I'm gonna retire that item at your next agenda, at your next meeting.
Oh, you can come again, Jack.
Oh, no, I meant I will retire the library director search update.
Oh, the search.
We'll have, so I know, Casa, I can't make a joke at 8:30 at night. And I will just let you know, I do plan to work with Olivia on the pre-prep agenda, the report and everything for your next meeting. So this is my penultimate trustees meeting. I will be here on April 13th, just to support her through that first meeting and work with her on going through all the prep and follow-up that I do. But my last acting director's report and done. Thank you. Mic drop,
Thank
as
you.
they say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing I could add to what you've just said is, on behalf of all of us, I've written, handwritten thank you notes to the 2 resident volunteers for the search committee, for the director search committee, and
Oh, Zena and Rachel.
Zena and Rachel wanted to tell you all that I've written them. They're stamped and ready to go. I wanted to be able to say I've written that said we're officially hired tonight. I can say that, so I'll put them in the mail tomorrow. But if they're watching this or anyone knows them, we really appreciate their input and their volunteering. So
And you'll let us know when you need our signatures.
Yes.
For the contract.
Yeah, I'll send an email. I'm hoping to have it ready sometime tomorrow. And pop into my new office at 105 South Main Street and you can have a tour and sign it.
Yeah,
nice.
let's, sign it after she signs it.
Okay. We can do that.
All right, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you again for all that you've done and have done and continue to do for us. So we appreciate your participation and all of your support.
Yeah,
Look
great
forward-
job.
Look
Excellent
forward to
job.
handing you your board off to your new director. It's gonna be great.
I have to say, Jake, I've said it so many times, but you did an incredible job.
Thank you.
I mean, this isn't your forte, yes, you're in municipal jobs, but this was really outside of that box, and I want to thank you for your work. Very hard work. Got emails from you on Saturday with stuff. You work all the time. You're nonstop. Appreciate it. Really, the town appreciates it.
Thanks, everybody. I think you'll all appreciate the irony that I was speaking with a college professor recently from my alma mater and talking about opportunities for people like myself, English majors, and what do you do with a BA in English? And I was someone who very much rejected English major career day when the options were lawyer, teacher, librarian, and I was like, I'll never be a librarian. And
Never say
so
never.
the joke has like fully been on me, and he got a really good laugh because I was really not fond about any of those job
I think you
opportunities as an
did.
English major.
Enjoyed it.
It's, it's a great opportunity to get to know the staff here more. As a high volume library user, I liked seeing them behind the scenes, get to pull back the curtain, which I'm really grateful for. And, it's a beautiful building to come to every day,
And
and
staff is great.
staff's been great. And it was a gift to work with them as we did their few union negotiations during this time period. So that's insight in a department's inner workings that I don't get normally when I'm negotiating with a team. It's been a gift, and I'm really appreciative of the partnership with the staff and with all of you. And I hope that this begins a new chapter for all of you, and we'll just go back to seeing each other at other meetings and at town meeting, and we'll all still see Costa every Tuesday or every other. And I'll see Susan when she's out with the trash queens doing her thing. But yeah, thank you, everybody, and
Thank you. Well, without, anybody have any other
No,
new business to discuss?
Move to adjourn.
The date of our next meeting is Monday, April 13th at 7 p.m. Thank you to everybody that joined us or was watching us in the future. We appreciate your support.
and can I make one final announcement?
Please.
Your videos are now being uploaded. We're still working on some technical issues with some of the older ones. But for my time as director forward, your videos are now gonna be a part of the video on demand page and going on the cable access channel, through, Paul Pellicelli and Adam Stone, our wonderful cable team. So if folks are looking for your videos that are more recent, please pass the word along that they're on video on demand now versus on the Flint site.
Some of our candidates for director found them and mentioned them.
Yeah, which is great.
Referenced them. Yeah, it was really good.
So
All right, Costa has moved to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
you don't have to make it.
you don't, but I'll third it.
You can third it,
Good
Jack.
night, everybody.
We're adjourned. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Yeah, we're adjourned at 8:37.